Welcome, and thank you for coming to the Museum of the San Ramon Valley's fourth annual Back to School Under the Stars Gala. In normal times, this wonderful event would be at our beautiful and historic 1888 Tassajara Grammar School. Our gala committee had to make a call whether we would have a live event early in the spring. And if you think back to those times, vaccines were difficult to find, variants were popping up, and we really weren't sure how comfortable people would be coming out. So in respect to everyone's health, we decided to move the physical event into the virtual realm for this year until we can safely gather once again. I hope you enjoy this virtual event and auction. We plan to resume our in-person gala next year and enjoy an evening of friends at the school. Even though our school programs have been cut short and the museum was closed for over a year, we're a strong organization and we are happy that we are coming back. We have reopened back to our normal schedule while maintaining safe practices. We continue to collect and preserve Valley history and continue to present our very popular monthly speaker series. We have designed walking and drive around tours to Valley historic sites for families trying to stay safe or just getting out. We are moving ahead with new educational and fun exhibits for the rest of this year and next. As I mentioned last year, the heart and soul of any nonprofit organization are the people that make it up and support it. In our case, we have the support of generous donors, loyal members, dedicated and talented and hardworking volunteers and staff. You stayed with us during the dark days of the pandemic, and thanks to you all, we continue to move ahead and do the things that you can be proud of as we return to a more normal time. Dan Ashley, Channel 7 anchor, was gracious enough to volunteer to join us this evening. But the world of news is constantly changing and news people get sent on assignments at the last minute. And that's happened to him. But he went out of his way to send us a video talking about the importance of the museum and tonight's gala. Our thanks to Dan. And we'll play that short video for you now.
Good evening. I'm Dan Ashley from ABC 7 News. It's great to be with you. I'm sorry I cannot be there with you live, but I'm delighted to be with you in spirit and here on videotape for a very important evening. You know, the Museum of San Ramon Valley is one of those remarkable jewels really in our community, a great organization and a key part of the San Ramon Valley, dedicated to preserving the area's rich history, and through powerful and impactful exhibits tells the story of who we were in terms of our rich history, but also who we are today. The Museum of San Ramon Valley is deeply involved in our community in so many vital ways, supporting local schools with its one-room school program for third graders. Students learn about the area in earlier times. The Indian Life program for fourth graders is about the Miwok Indians, the first residents of the valley. Each year, the museum offers a variety of programs that really enrich the entire community, exhibits for young and old alike. The museum is a living document of what makes this community so rich and so very special. So tonight, we come together to celebrate the museum and to raise some much-needed funds. As you no doubt are aware, the museum, like everyone else, has faced some really serious challenges because of the COVID pandemic. The gala is important to the museum's ability to continue offering its programs and exhibitions. Your support is badly needed and deeply appreciated. So on behalf of everyone, staff, volunteers, and board members, thank you very much for being here and thank you for your kind support. I'll see you soon.
And our thanks to Dan for that wonderful video. We have a fun program for you this evening. Museum President Brad Blackwell and Museum Curator Beverly Lane will talk about the museum's mission to collect and preserve Valley history and introduce us to 4 objects from the collection. Former Mayor of San Ramon and first-rate local historian Bill Clarkson will give us another story from his Secret History of San Ramon notebook. Our online auction is once again packed with great prizes and great deals. I'm sure you'll find something, or hopefully a couple somethings, that you have to have. And even though Renee Morgan, our auction queen, and I will be talking about this at the end, Renee, can you come on in and talk a little bit about the auction?
Well, hi, Dan. How are you doing this evening? It's
I'm
great to
good.
see
How are you?
everybody.
I didn't know you were
Great.
right out here on the corner.
I am right across the street from you. So it's great to be here this evening. We have some great items. You know, we have something for everybody. If you're looking for golf, we've got golf. You're looking for bocce or cornhole, whatever it may be you're looking for, we've got it on the auction. We even have a three-wheel, and I don't want to call it a trike because it's not. It's actually a bicycle for adults. And what a great way to go to the farmer's market, load up the back cart and come on home with all of those wonderful finds that you have in downtown Danville. It's a win-win for everybody. The other thing that we have that I'm really excited about is we've got all kinds of sports packages and wine packages, a bee experience. How many of you have ever wondered what it would be like to be a beekeeper? We have that opportunity along with all the things that go along with it. It is a great opportunity to help to fund the museum. Now, here's a way to think about it. When you're going through the auction items and you say to yourself, I always wanted to get one of those, or I was always interested in purchasing that, you can through the auction, and those funds go directly back to the museum. So it's a win-win for everybody. We get the funding for the museum and you get a great auction item to be able to put in your home, to be able to utilize games, whatever it may be. So Dan, I know I don't see you on screen right now, but I'll tell you what, we have something for everybody. And I'm so looking forward to everybody having an opportunity. Now, one thing I want to say though, Dan, is don't leave the show just yet, because we're done here in an hour. Then you can go online and bid, because tomorrow the auction closes. So don't leave the show tonight just yet.
No, we've got too much fun for you for the next few minutes. So you got to hang around.
Absolutely.
Thanks, Renee.
Absolutely.
So many people of the museum think of the museum for its interesting and fun programs and in fact, and impactful exhibits and programs. Part of the museum's mission is to collect, care for, and preserve Valley history. These collections can run from prehistory to modern times, and from historic buildings, like the one I'm in, our 1891 Southern Pacific Railroad Depot, and our 1888 schoolhouse, down to the hat pins. Museum President Brad Blackwell and Museum Curator Beverly Lane will talk about this part of the museum's mission and introduce us to 4 objects from the museum's collection. Brad and Beverly?
Well, thank you, Dan. Thank you. And Beverly will join us. There's Beverly right there. We're going to take a look at a few items. And as Dan said, the museum has thousands and thousands of items that we oversee, care for, have curated over the years. And no one has been more at the forefront of helping to identify these items and to know everything about them than Beverly Lane. Beverly, I think of you as the matriarch of San Ramon Valley history, and I'm interested to see what you've brought for us tonight, and let's talk about it. So what do you have?
Thank you, Brad. You know, what we're providing for you to see tonight are 4 stars of the collection out of many of the things that we have. And each of them have stories and further stories. So I think someone's going to put a wedding gown on for us to begin talking about.
Wow, look at that.
Look at this. This is Flora Mae Stone's wedding gown when she married James Jones in 1900. So it's this beautiful little dress, really fine cotton fabric on it with details and a satin trimming. And this was the wedding that joined 2 of Alamo's founding families, because the Jones and the Stones came to the Alamo area in the 1850s. And so she and James knew one another for a long time. She was quite an extraordinary woman. She was a teacher. She graduated from Mills Seminary in 1888. He attended Stanford. He was a local leader and rancher. And the Stones, of course, owned thousands of acres to the east of Alamo, which we know as Stone Valley. The Jones owned a very large ranch west of the county road in the area that is now the Alamo Plaza Shopping Center. So here's a picture of Flora May in her dress, which we also have at the museum. She had several sisters, the Stone sisters. And in 1990, Josephine Jones, who was her daughter-in-law, offered several of these family dresses and shoes and bodices to the museum when Joe moved from the historic Rancho Romero house. Betty Dunlap, who many of us know, was active with the museum at that time, and she was ultimately president. And she was the great niece of Flora May Jones Stone. So she accepted the dresses from Joe for the museum, but of course we had no museum. So what Betty did was clear out a closet and a half in her home and stored all of these clothes until we were ready to have them join our textiles collection.
You know, my daughters would have loved that as dress up. I'm glad they didn't have access to that closet. So, so this collection or this dress is visible right now at the museum if people want to come down and see it. Is that right, Beverly?
Yeah, well, what happened is we wanted to take a picture of it for the gala. And once we took it out of its acid free and poofed it up a little bit and put it on a mannequin, we decided that perhaps people might like to see the actual dress for a while. So this is in the waiting room on the table, and along with her picture and a little information. So you can come down to the museum and see it now.
Outstanding. It looks great. And she looks like she's kind of short. So, but I guess we'll see her real size when we go see the dress, right?
Yeah, a very, very petite waist, of course.
Of course. Of course. Okay, what else do you have for us?
Well, the next thing I wanted to talk about was a pomo basket. And this looks fairly large here, but it's only 5 inches. And this was made by a superb basket weaver called Mabel McKay, and she was a Pomo Indian. She was a person who was a leader in her tribe as well. And we show this basket because it's really symbolic of the number of baskets that Native Americans would have created as useful ways to support their family. They used them for storage, for cooking, for carrying babies, for collecting seeds and acorns. And this is just a gem. So we have a picture of Mabel McKay. She was a member of the Long Valley Cache Creek Pomo tribe, where she was also the last dreamer for that tribe. That is the person who renews a tribe's history and culture. In addition, she was a very articulate woman, and she was a cultural consultant for anthropologists. She was somebody who would talk to anthropologists. Not all Native descendants like to do that. So how did we get this basket? Well, we got it from Gail Faber and Michelle Lasagna, who many of you know. They were 4th grade teachers here in the district, and they started putting together information on California Indians because they had lots of information on Plains Indians, on Southwest Indians, but not much on California. And ultimately, these 2 talented women put together a curriculum which was adopted by the state on California Indians called Whispers from the First Californians. So this basket, and we will have other stunning baskets from California Indians on display for our First Peoples of California exhibit, which will open finally September 2nd. So look for this basket as well as the baskets from the Don Phelps collection when that opens.
All right. Very, very cool, Beverly. Very nice.
Yeah.
All right. What's next on our list of things to look at here?
Well, our next thing is something that is fairly mundane, but something that many of you have probably seen because it's usually in the permanent exhibit. Tom Hirano was a boy on a Danville farm family, and with his family was, of course, forced to go to an internment camp in 1942. After Pearl Harbor, there was such war hysteria that 115,000 Japanese families from the West Coast were ultimately sent to internment camps, which in that day were called concentration camps. They had no trials and no real cause other than their race. So in the San Ramon Valley, we had about 30 Japanese American families. And in May of 42, they met at the Danville Depot with just what they could carry. And they ended up going to the Turlock Fairgrounds for several months. And then they were sent to the Gila River internment camp in Arizona during the war. So you can see on top of this, we've got Danville, California, Tanio Tom Hirano, and his family's number, the 7302. And with the trunk, we got one of these famous tags that you have probably seen on in pictures of this tragic period. So how did we get this? And that's a kind of an interesting story, because Mildred Ferreira, a very gregarious woman who lived in Danville most of her life, said, well, the museum's going to have an exhibit on World War II. I think I'll invite a couple of my high school friends I've kept track of who were Japanese Americans and have them invite other friends. And so we had this lunch. And for me, who wanted to collect stories, it was a frenetic time. I was running from one person to another, taking notes. And so I met Tom, and he said, you know, I'm moving from a large house to a small house, and I have a couple of things that I wonder if you would be interested in. And one of them was this trunk. So it's a valuable part of our collections and of our permanent exhibit. And it definitely tells a story that we need to remember.
We absolutely do, Beverly. You know, my mother and her family spent time, she's Japanese American, and spent time at Tule Lake. And so the Tule Lake exhibit that the museum brought about 3 or 4 years ago, she had a chance to come up and see and was deeply touched by it. And that's the type of programming the museum brings to the community to help make sure that these types of things never happen again.
Yeah, yeah. So it may look a little worn, but it's a very, very cool artifact in our collection.
All right,
Okay.
so let's keep going. What else do we have? Wow, look at that.
Oh, look what we have here. We have this darling little doll with a card and a poem in back of it. And this is a doll that was given to Jan Berkfeld, who's on our board. And Jan is a fourth generation Baldwin Cox descendant. Her mother was Margaret Baldwin Wildenrad, and both the Coxes and the Baldwins also came to the Valley in the 1850s. Jan's uncle was Congressman John Baldwin, who many people remember. It's such a tiny community. And this was a doll and poem that was given to Jan, and I think kept from her to play because it's in great shape, after she was born, by Charlotte Wood. So we have a picture of Charlotte Wood I'd like you to see. The Wood family, again, came to the Sycamore Valley in the 1860s. And in 1921, Miss Wood, Miss Lottie, retired from teaching at Sycamore School. And but she lived a very long time. And so she was very important in the Valley. She did a lot of history writing. She loved to write poetry. She lived to be 97. And she published several small books of poems, which we have in the museum. So Jan donated the doll and poem along with a number of other Baldwin artifacts. And any of you that go to Osage Station Park should remember that that was once part of the Baldwin Ranch. So now I think we're going to talk to Charlotte, who's going to read her poem.
Well, how about that?
How about that?
Well, good evening, everybody. And I would like to introduce you to baby Jan. And we would like to read a poem that I wrote for baby Jan. And this is to baby dear. Baby dear, another sweet baby's mother's arms to enfold has come from far heaven to bring joys yet untold. A wee little sister, dainty, dimpled, and dear, to smile, to be a playmate, and with brother and cheer. Now 2 little cherubs to fill hearts of joy, 2 little kitties, busy hands to employ, 2 little darlings to laugh and to coo, 2 little hearts teach kind deeds to do. 2 little people to grow fine and strong, 2 youthful ones to help right earthly wrong, 2 worthy citizens with noble ideal, to be loved for their virtues, their honor, their zeal.
That was great, Charlotte. I mean, Renee. Thank you for standing in, and that's a fantastic poem. It's incredible that Jan Bergfeld, who is on our board, had an opportunity to get a doll from Charlotte Wood herself.
Amazing. And to keep it for all these years. You and I both have daughters. And I'll tell you, I don't know if the doll would still look like it does today for the one that she has. So
Yeah,
very impressive.
her mom had to have put it on the top shelf, because I know the American Girl dolls our kids had are in terrible shape today. Anyway, thank you very much, Renee, and we'll see you a little bit later.
We sure will.
Okay, now it's time to do one of your favorite activities, and that is called Fund a Need. And the museum has a lot of needs, and we're going to bring Dan Dunn back on to talk to us through this part. So Dan, we're going to try to fund a need here, and lots of needs, and everyone on the call here on our gala gets a chance to participate. Talk to us a little bit about what some of the funding needs for the museum are today.
Okay, so we mentioned specifically the collections earlier in the program. And remember, with collections, I count not only this building, but the one behind you of the Tassajara Grammar School. These are 2 historic buildings. Historic buildings take a lot of work. So our collections, as I said, run from large things like buildings and pianos down to hat pins and arrowheads. And these are all things that need very specific care. In the case of buildings, it's usually expensive care. And in the case of dolls, wedding dresses, textiles require a certain temperature, a certain humidity to run between. You have to be careful for bugs. And what I've learned over the years is that a lot of these objects were never supposed to stick around for 120 or 150 years. And yet we want them to, because they have a story to tell us. So the collections, I think, are very important. They help a museum do its job.
Yeah, well, I think that's absolutely true. And of course, the buildings themselves are very expensive. The railroad depot that you're sitting in right now is a very old building and needs a lot of upkeep as well. And of course, it's one of the jewels of the town of Danville, and we want to make sure that it stays good and in great shape. So thank you all for being here today. And for those of you that came last year, you remember the Fund a Need section, and you were all very generous. And we're hoping and asking that you do the same again this year, because our costs have not gone down. And of course, the pandemic has taken its toll on all of the financing for any nonprofit, and the museum is no exception to that. So here's how it's going to work. We're going to start at a high number. And for those of you that are feeling particularly generous today, we feel free to jump in and offer your support. The way you do it is at the bottom. If you take your cursor and go to the bottom, you'll see a little bubble called chat. And under chat, just make sure it says that it is going to all participants, to everyone. It'll say to everyone from you. And type in that you want to come in at that level, and just simply put your number in. And we'll continue to move down till we get to a level that you feel comfortable with. And if you would just jump in, that'd be great. If you have signed up for the auction, and I hope all of you have, if you haven't, you can still do that. There's time, because the auction doesn't close until 7 o'clock tomorrow. If you've signed up for the auction, you've given us your credit card, and Donna can just charge your credit card. She'll do that tomorrow evening for the amount that you pledge on the chat box today. If you haven't done that, still type your number in, and you don't intend to go onto the auction site, still type in your number. And if you would, what we'll ask you to do is send in a check, or just drop by the museum with a check or credit card, and we can take your information there. So how can you type to everyone? I think you go to the where it says to, hit the little arrow, and the arrow will say give different participants you can go to, and drop down and click on everyone. So that's the way that will work. I just noticed someone asked that question, so I'm sure others of you have that same question. So where we're going to start, Dan, I think we're going to start at $1,000. How does that sound to you?
I think that sounds wonderful.
For those of you willing to get $1,000, and I will tell you that she didn't pay total attention. She texted to me rather than doing this, but she texted to me an amount of $1,000, and that was Mary and Mike Franzen are going to join in and support the museum at the level of $1,000, and we can't thank you enough. For those of you that do come in and join, we are going to give a little cheer, and we're going to give recognition to you here. You know, Dan always appreciates anybody who has donated, because it helps him maintain the museum at the top rate level that it is, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
All
I
right.
couldn't do it without it.
Well, that is true. We couldn't do it without
Couldn't
it.
do it without it.
Couldn't do it without it. All right. So why don't we do this? Let's move down to, we're going to drop to the $500 level. Do we have anybody that is willing to do $500? And I've got Newell Arnerich says that he's donating $500 in honor of Karen Stepper's courageous journey to good health. Newell and Janice Arnerich, thank you so much. We really appreciate that. That's $500 from Newell. And Karen Sakata, who is also on the board of directors, has just come in at $500. That's outstanding. Thank you, Karen.
Hey, Brad.
Sakata, yes.
So since you just talked about the board of directors, would you let our audience know about our board supporting the gala?
Yeah, you have a very committed board, Dan. Thank you for bringing that up. And the board, every single board member has joined in at $500 or greater. And so we truly appreciate the support of all the board members. And it looks like Susan and Mark Reckers have just come in at $500 as well. Thank you both for that. That's absolutely outstanding. Reckers in for $500. That's excellent. So we're starting to see some numbers come in.
And if I can dive in again,
Yes.
I've got a couple people that couldn't be around for the program tonight, but they let me know about their donations. So Jean and Eleanor Newman, $500. They live in Concord.
Thank you to the
And we have an anonymous donor of $500 who's actually one of our very well-traveled volunteers. And so I appreciate them, and they didn't want their name mentioned, so I won't. But I appreciate the $500 from them too.
We will respect that. That's outstanding. And so if you are on the anonymous donor, thank you. And if you're not, well, we'll all send good thoughts into the universe for
Absolutely.
you. So looks like Barb and Rich Rosenthal are in for $500. Barb and Rich, thank you so much. And we really, really appreciate that. You know, they're very generous of you, the Rosenthals. Thank you. And wow, look at this. You know, we skipped right through the $750 level,
Oh,
Dan.
good.
But
You see that?
Carol just says that they've arranged to have $750 sent to the museum from Bill's IRA account. So thank you, Carol. We truly appreciate that. That's very, very generous. And if we skip through a number like we did, feel free to do what Carol and Bill have done and just come in at a slightly higher number. That's fantastic. All right, how about we do this, Dan? Let's drop down to the $250 level and
Okay.
see if we've got people that are comfortable donating at $250.
And
while-
again, I've got one that
oh,
talked to me a couple days ago. So David Baring, who also donated to the auction, has come in at $250 for us.
the Barings are always very generous. So thank you very much to David and his family. That's great. That's great. Hey, Dan, while we're waiting here, what do we have upcoming? We got trains going now. I know that's very popular. What's coming up?
Yeah, we've had a great summer with trains, Brad. As a lot of people know, we sell train passes, which will get you in the museum anytime the trains is here for that year. And we set a record for our train pass sales.
Wow.
It's amazingly funny to me that those model trains just attract an audience. I had a fellow director once that I was talking model trains to, and it was one of those, if you build it, they will come kind of things. And so trains has been banner for us for the summer. As you're going to hear in my closing, fair warning, it's in its last week. So if you want to use that train pass, you got to get back. And if you haven't been here yet, you got a week to get here.
Well, you know,
After that,
I brought Lisa and I brought our grandson Max to the train, and he just loves trains. Trains are one of his favorite things in the world. We couldn't get him out of there.
yeah,
But what we did do was we bought a train whistle. So if you do bring your kids or your grandkids to the museum, they have this big wooden whistle that you blow on. Sounds like a train whistle. And he blew that the rest of the day. I think I was a little sorry I bought it for him.
I was going to say, you might want to give some thought to that one before you
Yeah.
invest in the train whistle.
I know. Hey, well, so let's get back to it.
Okay.
John and Patty Keenan at $250. Thank you, John and Patty. And John, by the way, has been a tremendous organizer and leader of putting this gala on. So John, thank you so much. Not only are you volunteering your money, but you're volunteering your time, and the museum truly appreciates it. And then Dr. Ron Iverson and Virginia have come in at $500. So again, thank you very, very much, Ron and Virginia. And thank you again for coming in at a little higher than the level we were at. We truly appreciate that. And again, for those of you that are watching, if we skip through your number, feel free to come in like Ron and Virginia have. All right, so why don't we drop down now to, how about the $100 level? What do you think, Dan? We'll do that?
Okay, but before we get there, I've got a 150.
Oh, you got a 150? Okay.
I got a
let's
150.
Let's skip to 150 because I think everybody that can do 100 can afford the extra 50. So we'll go to
Okay.
150. Who's at 150 for us?
Our 150 is Kay Wang and the Bay Valley Chinese School.
Okay.
Kay also has donated an auction item, and last year she donated 2 and I bought 2. So my thanks to Kay and Bay Valley Chinese School. And 150 from them. Great.
Thank you. Kay has been a tremendous supporter of the museum, as well as just a great presence around town. And Jan Bergfeld has donated $100 and this is an additional $100, by the way, from Jan, in honor of Renee Morgan for making me laugh with her reading of her poem from Miss Lottie. So that is outstanding. And Jan, thank you for being here. And we are going to be talking to find out how you kept that doll in such beautiful shape. That is a gorgeous doll.
You know, we are recording this, so Jan can go back and revisit Renee as Charlotte Wood anytime she wants.
Yeah, we'll keep it up forever. Okay, and Julie Grisham, thank you for $150. We truly appreciate it, and she thanks the museum for the wonderful work. And Dan, I know that includes you, so the $150 will go to great use. And Julie, thank you so much for doing that. So, all right, what about anybody else at 150, or we can go at $100 too, if that's where you're standing. So Dan, what's the next thing that's coming up after we, Jan says, my mother said it was a looking doll, not a playing doll.
Well, that explains a lot.
That does explain a lot. So what's coming up next in the programming for the museum?
So we do next our annual First Peoples of California exhibition, which concentrates on the local tribes from the Valley and the Bay Area. This is also a program for fourth graders. So we have a combination of an exhibit and a program going at the same time. So always a bit of a challenge. And particularly this year, we're really unsure exactly what this program is going to look like once the school year starts. Right. Yeah, and that's a big source of revenue for the museum as well. And of course, if that can't go as planned, then it does also stress the finances a little bit. So yeah, and you know, Brad, I think at this point we also need to recognize the really loyal volunteers that go to those two programs, the First Peoples program here at the depot and the One Room School program where you are. Yes. Yes. Okay. Yeah, that One Room School program, our daughter, Katie, went through it when she was in third grade, and now she's a third grade teacher, and hopefully this spring we'll be bringing her class to it as well. Okay, I'll tell you what, we're going to finish up with, if anybody can throw in, if you can throw in an extra $50, let's go to $50 and ask for anybody else who may not have had a chance to contribute yet. Let's see if we've got $50 numbers, and that would be fantastic. So we'll look for that. And Michael Barnard said the Blackwells and Franzens are donating time in their Hawaii house auction. So cool. Hawaii house in the auction. So cool. Who's lucky enough to get that? I don't know who's leading in that, but if you want to spend 7 days in Hawaii, I do recommend you go to the auction site. It's at a very good price, and it's a beautiful place in a beautiful location on the Big Island of Hawaii. So, so thank you for that comment. So Dan, any final words before we wrap this up and get back to the program? Well, I think that, I've got to personally thank everybody that has donated tonight, everybody that has let me know in the last few days what they were going to do. It really does speak to the support that the museum has from the community. It really does. And if you didn't get a chance to type in today and you would like to continue, you'd like to donate, even though, please feel free just to stop by the place, and we would be really happy to accept your check and your generosity. So thank you to all of you who just donated. We truly appreciate it. Thank you to all of you that are here. We've got some exciting things. We have Bill Clarkson coming up, so I'll let you take that one, Dan. And we do have a group of corporate sponsors that donated a significant amount. You're going to see them at the end of the program, so I want to make sure that you pay attention and give kudos and your business to the corporate sponsors who came in. Oh, and by the way, Bob and Roseanne, is it Fasori, just came in at $50. So thank you for your $50 number. And I'm going to turn it back to you, Dan, so that you have an opportunity to take us through the rest of the program. And okay, thanks, Brad. You go. So as part of the museum's virtual speaker series every third Thursday, a few months ago, we had former mayor of San Ramon, Bill Clarkson, on with us to take us on a virtual tour of the secret history of San Ramon. Well, Bill's back to give us another story. So Bill, if I can invite you in, we'd love to hear what you've got for us this time.
Dan, thank you very much. I really appreciate this opportunity. A chance, I thought, to share with our audience how we sort of reconstruct, to the extent we can, the history of our valley, especially that lost history that sometimes we have a tough time getting back into the books. And I wanted to start with a story about the lost or hidden pioneer cemetery here in San Ramon. And the story about how it was tracked down and how we tried to identify the location of this cemetery. It is for the Norris family, and the Norrises were, by the way, the first American settlers here in the San Ramon Valley. I think it's important to share background on them. They were a Catholic family. They immigrated into Maryland back in the 1600s, which was, of course, a Catholic colony. They came to Kentucky and eventually left Kentucky to come out to Catholic Mexico, California, in 1846. The same year as the Donner Party, the same year as the Harlans came out. And they came across, and when they got to California, it had now become American territory, by the way. They purchased a large property, which turned out to be Rancho San Ramon, from Jose Maria Amador, and built a house, and that's where they began their family. But the story about this really begins in 1855, when his wife, Mary, passed away. And the reason this is important is in 1855, there were no local cemeteries. The Dublin Cemetery would not open for 5 more years, and the Alamo Dublin Cemetery would not start for a year later on, when the first recorded burial was done. And what was very traditional, at least for East Coast families, was to have family plots. And so there was a family Norris plot, and Mary was the first one who was buried there in 1855. I recall back in the 90s, hearing from an old timer that there was an old pioneer cemetery back up behind Castleton Court, where St. Joan of Arc Church was. And I always wondered, and where it was back there. And then somebody else had passed along the word that the headstones were found leaning against trees out there, and they were transferred down to the Dublin Cemetery. Roxanne Lindsay told me that, as she heard as a young girl when she was growing up on Norris Canyon Road, that one of the farmers used a headstone actually on some of the plows to hold it down when they plowed the fields. And so obviously there was more than one headstone out there. So I took a trip down to the Dublin Cemetery. And indeed, as you can see from the right-hand picture, there are 2 old tombstones, both of which came from the old Pioneer Cemetery. There are also some newer headstones that we're not quite sure when they were installed, but they have the names of Margaret and Henry and Mary and Leo there. And so the question we had was, where was the cemetery and how many of the Norrises and their family were actually buried in the cemetery? So as the years went by, I'm wondering where it was. I would look at old photographs, thinking that maybe if we saw old pictures, we would see some resemblance of where that cemetery might have been. Then a really critical clue came up in a booklet on historic sites in Contra Costa County. And it said, on a hill south of Norris Canyon Road and west of San Ramon Valley Boulevard, up there by Joan of Arc Church, was the old cemetery. The tombstones have been removed and the graves are now unmarked. And so now there was confirmation that there was a cemetery, confirmation the headstones removed, and a confirmation of where it was located on a hill. And so what's interesting is, where might that a hill have been? So I went back to an old map, 1852. This hand-drawn map from 1852 shows Leo Norris's house. Generally speaking, San Ramon Valley Boulevard as exists today. And here is the hills south of the property, south of Norris Canyon Road. So interesting. Okay, now we have an idea that there were some hills indicated on an old 1552 map. I wonder where that hill is. And so I went, did some aerials, and lo and behold, down here in the bottom, you can't see it, is Bollinger Canyon Elementary School. And there is a ridge or a hill that runs all the way up and then basically disappears right at Norris Canyon Road. And this this ridge runs the entire length here. And one of the questions that comes up is, especially with developers don't care about hills. They'll mow them down, move them around, put roads across them. And yet there are no roads across this. There is uninterrupted, undisturbed from the top all the way to the bottom. And the reason why, this is an earthquake fault. This is actually an escarpment, one plate. The plate on the left is slowly moving north and a little bit against the plate to the right and overshadowed a little bit. And that's why there is a ridge. So this is an earthquake fault, and that's why they could not build on it. And that's why they didn't change it. Perhaps the reason why, the graves have survived. Here's a map showing where the earthquake fault is down here in the area just below Norris Canyon Road, showing two lines because of the escarpment being in that general area. It's a part of the Calaveras Fault. It's been much more active in the south than up here, but there was a strong fault, an earthquake back in 1861, so it is still an active fault. Again, another map showing this fault running through, and again, the escarpment with these little hills right here just south of Norris Canyon Road. So looking at this escarpment running across here, the question would be trying to find out where might this cemetery have been along this hill. So we went and looked at some old aerial photographs, and which this is 1939 aerial photographs taken from airplanes showing the valley before there were any homes. Utterly fascinating picture. And the Google Maps overlays on this where the current streets are. And you can see this walkway going along in that escarpment area, which is a homeowner association walking path that can take you from Norris Canyon Road all the way down to Bollinger Canyon Elementary School. And you can see the orchards here below it. And along this ridge, you can see this dark area where they've been farming around it. They've been plowing around this, but not across this section right here. And this is in all likelihood the location of the Norris family graveyard. Probably this dark area in here with the plows going around it and directly behind it. This is without the streets involved. This is where the house, in fact, in this photograph, the actual house is here of Leo Norris. You can see the hill. You can see where Castle and Court would come up. You can see the old creek before it was diverted over here. And one last photograph, this spot right here, and I've walked up along this, it's overgrown with bushes, but almost in this exact area here is the location of the Norris family graveyard. There are probably at least 4 members, maybe 5 members of the Norris family. There's potentially as many as 8 members of their extended family that may have been buried here. The last burial being in 1930, when the Margaret Norris, the wife of Leo Norris's son, passed away. And the reasons why I think it was sort of abandoned and forgotten about over the years. I hope someday that we as a community will find a way to acknowledge this location and for those pioneers who currently lie in unmarked graves. So I hope you found that interesting in sort of how we try to reconstruct and tell the story of our history here in the Valley. Thank you.
Thanks, Bill. And I think we all just noticed that Bill does great detective work and tells a good story too. And I'd like to echo your sentiment at the end that a lot of these early settlers that are sort of scattered should be recognized and their remains respected. So thanks, Bill.
My pleasure. Thank you, sir.
You're welcome. One more thing before we leave Bill entirely. Bill has graciously offered an auction prize for a secret Tours of San Ramon trip. He will do a commentary for you. It's as many people as you can fit into a vehicle. safely. This isn't a college kind of challenge thing, so safely. But we just noticed that Bill tells a great story. I can tell you that some of the stories that he has are simply fabulous. He knows his community really well. And I think it would be a heck of an auction prize. So thanks to Bill for the story tonight, and thanks to him for that auction prize. And speaking of auctions, I'd like to ask Renee Morgan to stop channeling Charlotte Wood and come in with her auction crown on. So Renee, doll safely put away and you're back.
Oh, it was a baby, actually. Ask Jan. It was her. I was speaking to Jan, so she knows that it was her. So, but yes,
Okay.
I am back.
Got it. So what do we have that's real? I mean, everything's really cool.
Oh, yeah.
But what do we have that are standouts for you?
You know, it's hard to say standouts because we have such wonderful donations and so many people that not only donated to the Fund a Need, but donated to the auction. I mean, you are keeping history alive. So what a great opportunity for us to say thank you to all of you that have done this. But I'll tell you something, we've got 3, count them, 3 A's packages. And I know you know what I'm talking about.
I
that
do.
We have a collector's items in there that are items you cannot receive if you went down to the stadium yourself, with t-shirts, Billy Ball, you name it. And we've got that. We've got 3 of those. Take Me Out to the Ball Game package 1, 2, and 3. And not only that, but it's not specific games. You pick the games you want to go to. I mean, how often do you get that opportunity? And thank you to your bride for providing that information, all that for us. I mean, that is just phenomenal. And every year, I should say, that we get that from you. And it is a very popular item, but at the same time, we definitely are not way up there in price point. So take a look at it. It's not, you're getting a great deal. The other thing,
if I can come clean on that one, Renee, it is, my bride is a front office executive for the Oakland A's. I think this is her 36th season. She started when she was 5.
of course,
Each package includes 4 of her season tickets. You will be behind the dugout. And so you get to work with Pam to figure out what game you want to go to and work it out with her. Yeah, good stuff. Sort of as you see on the screen, a priceless opportunity.
absolutely.
And she knows the history of the game. And as I said, she's been there since maybe the Charlie Finley days.
Yeah, and great seats too. So, I mean, it's a win-win. And another thing that we have from the stores, we've got 49ers, tame those darn Colts. And we've got tickets to that, including parking. I mean, and all the garb that goes with it, your masks. There you go, right on screen. You see it. I mean, it's a $350 value. It's at $200 right now. I mean, who could ask for more? It is something that I'll tell you what, Robert and Sandra, thank you so graciously for offering this up for us again this year, and making sure that we have people that enjoy the 49ers. Come on, we've been housed in our homes for a year and a half. Let's get out. Let's get out. Let's get to those games. The Hawaiian trip. Oh my gosh, the Blackwells. We can't thank them enough. That is such a hot auction item for us, and it does so well. I mean, you've got Mary and Mike as well they're donating this prize. If you look at the description of this, $5,600 you would pay normally to go to some type of facility, like a beautiful luxury Hawaiian home, and it's only at $4,100. I mean, that is something that if you're looking for something to do and go on vacation, that's definitely for you. Another thing that we have is the Feeling Lucky tickets. And I'll tell you what, I'm honing in on, let's just say, are you feeling lucky? So Clint Eastwood is honing in on, I'm honing in on Clint Eastwood right now, because that's $150 right now in lottery tickets. But I'll tell you, that doesn't mean that it's $150, right? We've got $150 in tickets but you could be willing, you know, millions. I mean, this is not $150 value. It could be up there in dollar prices. The other thing, you know, you talked about Bill Clarkson and his wonderful donation to go around and see the secrets of San Ramon. We've got Beverly Lane that's willing, and she wants to. She's got a book for you on Alamo. She's got wine for you, and she's got the tour for you of Alamo, as well as Danville, to take you on that historical tour. And, you know, she's a former council member mayor with the town of Danville. She knows the secrets that you want to know as well. So don't forget to bid on those prizes as well. You know, there you go. We can see some of them. And look at that. We've got Wente Wines, local winery, and, you know, going on a history tour and including lunch is a great opportunity to sit down and talk to her, talk about the history. She's been in this area for such a long time. Why wouldn't you want to know about our history? Take your kids with you. What a great opportunity for them to know what the history is in our backyard. You know, another thing, the flag. We've got a handmade from repurposed wood flag from Frenchy Flags. They take they repurpose the wood from fences that they do, and they make out of them all kinds of things, including these wonderful flags that Rodney Worth has actually flown in his restaurants. And it is at $50. It's only at $50. I mean, this flag is huge. It's in my house. Ask me. It's a huge flag. It's wonderful. It's wonderful. So Dan, what are you bidding on?
Okay, so
okay, so we don't want to give it away, but I mean,
no,
I
I'm going
know
to come
you don't wanna say
clean.
no, but okay,
I'm a beer drinker, and there's a beer package out there that,
there's two of them.
well, yeah, but there's one in particular that I've been bidding on. And what I have found out is that I am bidding against the president of our board and the
Oh.
treasurer of our board.
Oh,
And what I can say is that it's getting ugly, to be honest, Renee. This is
it's for a good cause.
I know,
For a
I
good
know.
cause. But
I
I
know.
have to tell you, Dan, only you know who you're bidding against. So for those that are out there, you don't know who you're bidding against. So feel free to bid and bid
Sure.
often, bid high, because remember what we said in the very beginning. These are items that if you went through, like Trader Joe's, we've got a gourmet basket. These are items that you would go out and purchase anyways. Why not purchase them from the auction and the fund comes back to the museum? It is a win-win, not only for you, but for us as well. So I can't emphasize that enough.
Okay. Anything else for us, Renee?
No, but I'll tell you what, we close tomorrow. So we've given you an additional day to bid on these wonderful auction items. As of tomorrow at 7 o'clock, you will not have the opportunity. So if you miss the fund a need, now's your chance to get out there and to give back to the museum in a way that you also receive something in return. So it's a
Okay.
win-win for everybody.
Thanks, Renee.
Thank you.
All right. And speaking of thank yous, a few that I have to do for us. We have been getting donations for the last couple of weeks. And so I want to make sure that I thank everybody that's been donating in the name of the gala. And an event like this requires many dedicated and talented people. You see their names here. At the Museum of the San Ramon Valley, we know how to do a lot of things. And fortunately, we have a talented, hardworking gala committee that helps us put on an event like this one. I would like to give a particular shout out to a few of them. Candace Anderson, who has organized us and kept us on the right track. John Keenan, who really is responsible for putting this program together. And I know who is sweating through it right now, hoping that I don't say anything stupid before the end. Donna Greer for her, and Mary Franzen for both of their great work with the auction, the graphics that you see. Renee Morgan, of course, who just left us, who is tireless with the auction and really is important to us for her auction work, and among other things. And our sponsors, who are on the next slide. I'd like to make sure that we thank them. Some of them have been very loyal to us. They've sponsored every year now for us. And so I'd like to thank them for their loyalty. And I'd like to thank you for caring about the museum to view tonight, donate and bidding on auction items. Your caring about us says a lot. As I said earlier, fair warning, our model train exhibit is in its last week. It closes next Sunday, August 22nd. And after that, our First Peoples of California exhibit. Plan on being back with us at the 1888 Tassajara Grammar School next summer in person for our Back to School Under the Stars 2022. We plan on being there and hopefully you will too. Good night, take care. Thank you for watching.